The narcissist's lack of empathy. Why they can't relate to you. From the editorial staff of UnderstandNarcissism.com. Understanding the roots of empathy deficit in narcissistic individuals and learning how to protect your emotional well-being in these challenging relationships. Why empathy matters in relationships. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of another, is foundational to healthy relationships. It allows us to connect, support, and respond to the needs of those around us. Yet, for individuals with narcissistic tendencies or narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, empathy is often notably absent. In this podcast, we'll discuss why narcissists lack empathy, how it affects their relationships, and what you can do to protect your emotional well-being when dealing with someone who struggles to relate to others' feelings. Why narcissists lack empathy. The narcissist's lack of empathy is a complex trait that can stem from deep psychological needs, protective mechanisms, and a fundamental self-centered perspective. Here are some of the main reasons why narcissists often struggle to empathize with others. Self-centered focus. Narcissists focus on their own needs, desires, and goals. This egocentric view means they see relationships as tools for fulfilling their objectives, rather than opportunities for mutual connection. Consequently, they rarely pause to consider others' emotions, often seeing them as distractions from their needs. Fragile self-esteem. Many narcissists have a delicate sense of self-worth that they guard with intense focus. Empathizing with others would require acknowledging others' perspectives and possibly recognizing their shortcomings or mistakes, which threatens this fragile self-image. Avoidance of vulnerability. Empathy involves vulnerability, openness, and the willingness to feel uncomfortable emotions. For narcissists, allowing these emotions feels risky or even dangerous, as it forces them to move beyond their self-protective shell. Need for control. As we explored in our previous article, narcissists often have a deep need for control. Empathizing with others can mean accepting uncertainty, compromise, or dependency, all of which conflict with their need to control situations and relationships. Developmental influences. Some researchers suggest early childhood experiences can impact empathy development. For example, children who grow up in environments discouraging emotional expression may learn to suppress empathy as a coping mechanism, focusing instead on self-preservation. How a lack of empathy manifests in relationships. Narcissists' inability to relate to others' feelings often leads to behaviors that can feel hurtful, confusing, or dismissive. Here are some common ways a lack of empathy manifests in relationships. Dismissal of feelings. Narcissists may invalidate or ignore others' emotions, often responding with phrases like, "You're too sensitive," or "Stop overreacting." This dismissive attitude can make those around them feel unimportant or unheard. Focus on their own needs. Narcissists tend to shift conversations back to themselves, making little effort to understand or support others. Even when someone else is struggling, the narcissist often finds a way to make the issue about them, seeking sympathy or admiration instead of offering comfort. Lack of accountability. Without empathy, narcissists struggle to see how their actions affect others. They may refuse to take responsibility for their behavior, denying any harm they've caused, or minimizing others' pain to avoid feelings of guilt. Exploitation and manipulation. Narcissists often use people to meet their own needs, whether for validation, support, or admiration. This lack of empathy allows them to manipulate others without guilt or remorse, as they disconnect from how their actions impact those around them. Inability to connect on a deep level. Emotional intimacy requires empathy and being present for another person's experiences. Narcissists, however, tend to keep relationships superficial and transactional, leaving their partners or friends feeling unfulfilled or alone. The emotional impact on others. Being in a relationship with someone who lacks empathy can be emotionally exhausting and damaging. Here's how a narcissist's inability to relate to your feelings might affect you. Feeling invalidated. When a narcissist ignores your emotions, it's natural to feel invalidated or as if your feelings don't matter. Over time, this can erode your sense of self-worth. Constant self-doubt. Narcissists often make others question their own emotions and perceptions. If someone constantly dismisses your feelings, you may begin to doubt your experiences, wondering if you're actually too sensitive or overreacting. Insecurity and anxiety. Narcissists' inability to connect emotionally can create a sense of insecurity. Without empathy, relationships feel one-sided, leaving you unsure of where you stand and fearful of saying or doing something that may trigger the narcissist's anger or indifference. Isolation and loneliness. Since narcissists rarely provide emotional support, their partners, friends, or family members may feel isolated or lonely, even within the relationship. Building meaningful connections that provide emotional nourishment isn't easy without mutual empathy. Protecting yourself when empathy is absent. Dealing with someone who lacks empathy can be challenging, but there are ways to protect your own mental and emotional health. Here are some strategies. Recognize the pattern. Understanding that the narcissist's lack of empathy is a persistent trait, not a temporary issue, can help you adjust your expectations and avoid being hurt by repeated disappointments. Set boundaries. Establishing clear boundaries is essential for protecting yourself. Decide what you will and won't tolerate, and don't be afraid to enforce these boundaries when the narcissist crosses the line. Avoid seeking validation. Seeking validation from a narcissist is often a fruitless endeavor, as they're unlikely to offer genuine support or understanding. Instead, focus on building self-validation by acknowledging your feelings and relying on trusted friends or family members for support. Detach emotionally. Practicing emotional detachment can help you avoid getting drawn into manipulative or dismissive behavior. By focusing on your well-being and viewing the narcissist's behavior objectively, you can maintain a healthier distance. Seek outside support. It's essential to have a support network where you can express yourself freely and feel understood. Trusted friends, family members, or mental health professionals can provide perspective and help you navigate the challenges of a relationship with someone who lacks empathy. Understanding and accepting the limitations of narcissistic relationships. The narcissist's lack of empathy is not simply a behavioral flaw. It's a core part of how they relate to the world. Understanding this limitation can help you manage expectations, avoid disappointment, and prioritize your well-being. While connecting with someone who lacks empathy is challenging, recognizing these patterns can empower you to protect yourself emotionally. The information provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional advice. We are not licensed clinicians, mental health professionals, lawyers, or legal advisors. For any concerns regarding mental health or personal situations, please seek advice from a qualified professional. For more details, please read our full disclaimer.